Good afternoon. Welcome into From Day One. Still trying to get things done. Let's start with a case.
Recalling State of Michigan versus Alec Harrington.
Good morning, Your Honor. And good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Brian J. Kriegel. On behalf of Mr. Harrington, Mr. Alec Harrington, will you please state your full name for the record, please?
Alec Michael Harrington.
Thank you. Your Honor, today's date and time set for a show cause hearing. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak directly to Mr. Harrington in a breakout room. He and I were able to review the allegations contained within the show cause notice and the violations of probation and the recommendations as set forth. If I may briefly allocate on his behalf, he has made some positive steps at this time to address some of those allegations.
Sure, go ahead.
My client has indicated to me that he is in fact in possession and maintains a valid driver's license in the state of Michigan. So the last bullet point in terms of failing to get his license back is not at issue. That has allowed him to take on new employment at Dexter. His first day of work is in fact today. He's been hired in as a full-time manufacturing laborer in that setting at $16 an hour. With the license and the ability to get back and forth to work, I think it would be ideal that the court consider holding the jail days in abeyance in this matter so that he can make meaningful steps to pay back the sizable amount of restitution that goes in this case. And in conclusion, he has taken steps in late March to contact Mr. Brown in terms of the MRT program. He was dropped from the program due to tardiness and failures to attend the class sessions. He understands that that is something he must do moving forward and will take active steps to ensure compliance by checking in with both Mr. Brown with MRT and the probation experience moving forward for fear that he may in fact be remanded for any future violations to the Washtenaw County Jail. So I ask the court to consider those factors before imposing a penalty or punishment for these violations of probation.
Mr. Kriegel, I realize that you have just been appointed on this case, but this is not the first time that we've been here. This is actually his sixth violation. He missed last court date, so technically this is the seventh time we've been here for these cases. And it's the same
Correct, Your Honor.
thing every single time. It is the same story every time. And so I'm really running out of options here, Mr. Harrington. I've expressed that to you before. I ultimately did at one point, after your fourth violation, gave you 2 days of the work program, and then I gave you some jail time for 4 days, looks like. I really don't know what to do, Mr. Harrington. I don't know what's going to motivate you to do the things that you need to do. You owe a lot of restitution. The MRT program is meant to help you and get you back on track and get you in a different mindset so you're not in the same pattern of behavior. And I feel like I've given so many opportunities. We've been doing this for a year. Your first violation in front of me was actually May 18th, 2021. And
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what's going to motivate you.
I understand that, Your Honor. I apologize for the lack of timely payments on the restitution. I'm not pointing fingers here, but I am doing all that I can to put payments towards the restitution by myself because my co-defendant on this case has decided he did not want to be involved with the process. That in mind, I realize that there is need for some form of a drastic course correction to remedy these issues, and I am prepared to, in an effort to put a significant dent in the restitution, I can sell my car.
Mr. Harrington, I'm not asking you to do this. Just like last time when you had housing issues, I wasn't asking you to not eat or give up your housing to pay the restitution. That was never our intention. And Ms. Yaki has tried to work with you and set you up with resources, so those weren't going to be factors. Nobody is trying to make you homeless or lose your job.
I'm aware.
Yeah, you have not checked. It's literally been a year of us begging and trying to get you to do things. And frankly, Mr. Harrington, it sucks that you have to pay the whole restitution by yourself. I get that. I'm familiar with your co-defendant. I understand that it's incredibly frustrating. But Mr. Harrington, you made a choice to commit this crime with the co-defendant. Unfortunately, the way the law is, you're both responsible for this restitution. This is not money going to the court. This is going to the victim.
Yes.
Or paying back someone for something that you did to them.
Yes.
I am sympathetic to a point, but I'm more sympathetic to the victim here. So
yes.
This restitution has to get paid back. It's going to follow you for the rest of your life. You are going to pay this restitution back one way or the other.
Yes, ma'am.
But I would like you to complete your probation successfully.
Yeah, and I understand that being dropped from the MRT is a large factor in this violation as well. I had done what I could to talk with Ms. Yiki and both Ryan Brown to resolve it. We had come to the conclusion that the best way to appear as though I'm being proactive in this matter is to get into MRT again before I had the initial trial on the 3rd. But I had contacted Ryan Brown and only got his assistant.
He meant the violation of probation that you'd be able to appear on the 3rd.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
So I had talked to Ms. Yiki, and she had told me that if I could get back in, that that would at least look a little better because I was trying. But then Ryan I got his assistant instead of him, and she told me that it was unlikely that I was going to be reinstated in the program by that time. And I emailed him as well, and I got an automatic reply that said he was going to be out of his office until the 22nd of that month. So the likelihood of me getting back in MRT in a timely manner was pretty much told by everyone from my probation agent to Ryan Brown's assistant that it was not going to happen. And I apologize for that, but I did intend to re-enroll. And I do intend to re-enroll.
And I'm happy to hear that. And enrolling is great. And we've had you enroll now twice. So this will be your 3rd time enrolling into MRT. The problem isn't enrolling. The problem is getting you to go once you've enrolled. The last time you enrolled, you missed 9 times. So of course they're going to kick you out of the program. You're not in the program if you're missing every class. Right?
True. I mean,
if you didn't go to work 9 times, you think they'd keep you on, or you think they'd fire you?
They'd probably fire me.
Yeah, it's the same thing. If you're not showing up, you're not in the program. That's the way it works.
Right. I was when talking to my MRT not the facilitator, the particular worker from my class. She had made it clear that there were particular instances that would warrant unexcused absence. Those were the additional 9 or 6 over the 3 that were allotted. The last one was not excused, and I understand that.
Mr. Harrington, I am so glad to hear that you took care of your license. I know that was a huge barrier for a while in this case of you doing your community service hours, and I'm so glad to hear that you found, it sounds like a great job, and full-time employment at that. That's great. But how are you going to balance that and complete MRT?
Well, that was the whole kind of idea behind selling the car. I realized that,
But then how are you going to get to work?
Mr. Harrington, not to interrupt, but we talked about that. The judge is not going to have you cut your nose off to spite your face in regards to removing your transportation so you can't work. Don't continue to plow down that path.
Yeah, no, I know that wouldn't be required. It's just that there's a lot of work that's fairly local in Saline. I'm not trying to do it. That's not the Hail Mary here. I really want to get a significant dent in the restitution to at least, do something. But I just without something like
Mr.
that.
Harrington, Mr. Harrington, But you've got to think this out a few steps. If you lose your car, you're going to lose this great job, great full-time job that you have that will ultimately help you pay off the restitution. And it sounds great to walk to work now because Michigan's getting warmer, but in a few months it's going to be snowing again. I hate to say it, but you're not going to want to walk to work. It doesn't make sense to sell this car. Mr. Harrington, I don't want you to set yourself up to fail. We're trying to help you succeed here.
I understand. And I apologize. There was a conversation that me and Ms. Shiki had where she had indicated that I needed to have an explanation as to why I was wasting the court's time, and frankly, I don't have one. I don't have one, and I don't. That wasn't my intention, but I suppose that's just what happened. I apologize.
Mr. Harrington, I don't want excuses. I want a plan. I want to know what the next steps are. You've made the mistakes. They're done. Now we move forward. What's the plan moving forward? It sounds like you have a job. That's fantastic. You'll be able to start making payments on that restitution. But your next plan is to figure out how you're going to complete MRT.
Yes.
Not just enroll, complete it. That means attend every session.
Yes, ma'am. I think
Make it clear, Mr. Harrington. I understand that they have their own absence policy, or absences policy. You cannot miss any MRT once you're enrolled without permission from Miss Yaki. So if it's coming up, if it's your sick, employment, whatever it is that you might miss an MRT class, the first person you call is Miss Yaki. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You need to re-enroll in MRT.
Yes, Your Honor.
Within 14 days.
Yes, Your Honor.
Continue your employment and show proof to probation of your employment. And you need to start making payments on that restitution.
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't care if it's $10 a week. You've got to pay back these victims. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to set a review hearing for July 5th, 2022 at 9 a.m. Ms. Yaki can waive that if you're on track. I hope she's going to waive that because you'll be in MRT and you've made some payments for restitution. Right, Mr. Harrington?
Right.
Okay. You're all set for today.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for that consideration. Mr. Harrington, take that to heart, please.
I will.
And we have a second smaller clip to conclude our day. No. Shut up. So we do not need something copyrighted to really screw with us. Alright, let's try this again.
We're back on the record in People versus Robert Winburn, 17654 FC.
Michael Doby for the People.
Karen Grunhout here on behalf of Mr. Winburn, also known as Scott Libby. I do see that his name is still up, but I do not see him. I don't know if his camera's turned off or if he is no longer in the room.
I don't know. Do you see Mr. Winburn anymore? There he is. Okay, Mr. Winburn, your device is muted. Someone there will need to unmute your device.
Ms. Grounhout, I understand you have a motion.
Yes, Your Honor, and I don't know that my client has received it. I did send it to him through a JPay earlier today. However, I don't know his access with regard to it, but I am motioning the court to withdraw as counsel for the defendant. There's been a breakdown in the attorney-client relationship to the extent that the public defender's office can no longer zealously represent the defendant. The defendant has written to the press alleging misconduct between myself and the court. The defendant has threatened to slit his throat in protest of my office's representation of him in the above captioned matter. He has sent correspondence to my office that I believe to be a viable threat against myself, that because of this perceived threat, I feel that it's impossible to communicate effectively with the defendant in the case. We cannot have attorney-client communications via mail, Zoom, or in person, and I certainly don't feel as though I can sit next to him during the trial at this time, and therefore I would ask that I be removed from the case.
Mr. Dobie.
Thank you, Your Honor. I take no position on Ms. Gronout's motion and leave it to the court.
Well, at this point, I have a good faith basis to believe that Mr. Winburn may not be competent. I do handle the mental health docket, and I do take threats of suicide seriously. When we have a person who is threatening to slit their throat over protestation of an attorney's representation, and I do have to say on the record that I think Ms. Grounhout and her office has done a splendid job in representing Mr. Winburn. She has been very professional, very ethical, and we were so close to being able to get this case tried in 2 weeks. We're just 2 weeks away from our trial date, roughly, the 13th. So I am loath to grant the motion, but I must grant the motion. I cannot require this able, competent attorney to abide by what's going on, and as I said, I now have a good faith basis for believing that Mr. Winburn is not competent to stand trial. So unfortunately, I am referring him of the court's own volition to the Center for Forensic Psychiatry for another competency evaluation. I understand that he had one that was probably a couple of years ago now, but I do believe that he has decompensated to the extent that he can no longer effectively assist in getting his case tried. He knows that I will not allow him to represent himself because of what happened when he tried to do so, and we had a mistrial, and his conduct in the courtroom just spirals out of control. So your motion is granted, Ms. Grounhout. If you would please submit an order, we will appoint the next person who comes up on the list through the appointments office. You know, the court isn't handling the appointments anymore, so they're going to have to find another attorney for Mr. Winburn, and we will actually, Mr. Dobie, can your office prepare that order for the competency evaluation?
Yes.
Thank you, I would appreciate that. I'm somewhat short-staffed here, so is there anything further, Ms. Grounhout?
No, only that I did submit an order for withdrawal along with my motion, so that should be in the file.
Okay, I will look for that. Thank you again for your service to this defendant and accepting the appointment. And I don't recall your associate's name who previously was engaged. I thought he was very professional and competent as well, so if you would also give my thanks to him as well.
I will do so. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. And that concludes this hearing. And trial is off for the 13th, of course. I need to set a date for the competency hearing, and I will set that like 60 days out. Although they may not have the report done, we can set that for August 18th.
Thank you, Your Honor.
At 1:30. Thank you.
Alrighty, with that, we are going to leave this episode for today. We are having technical difficulties with our internet provider. We're hoping that these will actually even get uploaded in time to air today. If so, we should have some auditor in the evening. It will be a little shorter episode than normal due to the technical issues. And as long as everything works correctly, we will have the final portion of Art Bell with George Carlin in the overnight segment. Until then, like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another. And always, always, always release the Krakens as we march along this afternoon and every afternoon here from day one. Have a great afternoon. We'll hopefully see you tonight.